Have you ever wondered what ingredients go into making the movie experience so enjoyable and satisfying? Well, to be honest, there are many. Story structure, plot, music score, etc. But the key ingredient that goes into making a film interesting are the visuals of the movie. Visuals not only have the energy to compel the audience's instant attention, but they also create an emotional impact and sustain this impact throughout the movie. This brings us to the art of cinematography. Cinematography is a deep art with infinite possibilities which, if you ever master, will take years of experience and utmost diligence. And you may still not call yourself a maestro. But definitely, there are some basic conventions which have emerged as the art and craft of filmmaking has evolved over the past century. In this film, we will discuss the basic conventions of cinematography for you. Let us first start with the basic product of cinematography, a shot. A shot is the basic building block, the smallest unit that constructs the narrative structure of the film. Although, technically a shot is created by the camera, but derives its meaning from many other factors like lighting, sets, and more importantly, the art of camera placement. Therefore, let us begin to understand the fundamental concepts of the art of camera placement. Camera is always placed in a specific position, at a specific height and orientation in relation to its subject. That is, at a specific camera angle. Film directors often shoot their characters and situations using different angles in order to convey different meanings at different times. If the angle is slight, it creates a subtle emotional impact. And if the angle is extreme, it represents a major meaning of the image. To put it simply, a specific camera angle conveys a specific meaning.
If you look at, right from the day we are born, we are able to turn our heads to the left and we are able to turn our heads to the right. Now, why do we turn our head to the left or why do we turn our head to the right? It's basically because there is a certain limitation to our angle of view. We are not able to see beyond a certain fixed angle. And that varies from individual to individual, and because of these limitations, if we have to look at a vehicle coming on the left, we have to turn our head to the left. If I hear a voice on the right hand side, it's human nature to turn my head to the right. And similarly, so the camera is just doing the function of the human being.
As a director, you have many camera angles at your disposal that can shape the look and feel of the film. But conventionally speaking, there are 5 basic camera angles used to shoot scenes in a film. They are bird's eye view, high angle, low angle, eye level, and the oblique angle. Let us now discuss each of these camera angles one by one. Bird's eye view. In bird's eye view, the camera is positioned directly above the subject, photographing the subject directly from overhead. This view of the camera is perhaps the most disorienting of all angles, as we seldom view events from this perspective. That's why filmmakers tend to avoid this camera setup. However, this setup can be used very effectively at times. Low angle. A low angle is one in which the camera is placed below the subject, angled upwards. It makes the character or the environment look intimidating and all-powerful. For example, in Troy, Brad Pitt was photographed in a low angle in his introductory shot to bring out his omnipotence. The low-angle shot can also give a distorted perspective of the background, which produces a sense of foreboding. A good example of which can be seen in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, where James Stewart is filmed from a low angle, making the steeple and the trees in the background appear ominous. High angle. In the high angle, the camera is placed above the subject, looking down. It tends to diminish the subject, making it look insignificant. Eye level. The eye level shot is the most common angle seen in movies. In these shots, the camera is placed at the eye level or roughly near the eye level of the character. They put the viewer on equal footing with the subject being filmed. These shots are not dramatic, but neutral in nature. Moreover, they are extremely effective in the development of the film story. The famous Japanese master Ozu used only eye-level shots in his films. He believed that usage of any other angle may imply value judgment by the director against his characters. Oblique angle. Oblique or the Dutch angle is a shot in which the camera is tilted laterally on the tripod. It is generally used to give an overwhelming sense of the world being unbalanced. It may also suggest a sense of crookedness, or in some cases, a sense of playfulness.
Your shots and your sequences, they are the vocabulary of your film. In other words, cinematic vocabulary consists of shots and sequences. You know, there is, like say for instance, you have the semiology, like say for instance, if you have abstract in language, you have words, you have alphabet and words. Now, alphabets put together make for words. Like if you let C-A-T, it becomes cat. But C has no connection with cat, A has no connection with cat, T has no connection with cat. But when you put them together, it becomes cat. They are abstract sounds that come together and form a meaningful definition or description, correct? Now, when it comes to the cinema, each image is actually concrete. It has a meaning by itself because it has a recognizable meaning by itself. Therefore, the semiology of film is different from the semiology of language. So, you have, if you have an image of something and how it works in combination with other images, making for a larger meaning, making for a larger meaning, that is how you use cinema to tell a story or create a narrative. But when you're doing that, you will find that you can do many different kinds of things. You can use, like Eisenstein used to use montage as a concept to use a narrative. You can use other kinds of techniques also, and use the grammar, different kinds of grammar in order to use to create a narrative.
Camera movement. Camera movement is a very integral part of camera language. Apart from providing dynamic energy to a shot, camera movement is employed as a very critical storytelling device. They can alter the audience's perception of screen time, screen space, and speed. Moreover, they reveal concealed information on screen, follow characters, etc. Camera movements can be broadly divided into two categories. One, in which the camera tripod is fixed and stationary. For example, pan, tilt, and zoom. And second, in which the camera setup is moving. For example, dolly, track, crane, etc. Pan and tilt. Pan and tilt are camera movements of the camera on the tripod. A pan is a shot in which the camera is turned left or right horizontally on the stationary tripod. The pan is very commonly used to reveal new elements within the frame, elements which may have been concealed from the audience. It is also very commonly used to show locations and follow characters. Tilt is very similar to pan, except its movement is upwards or downwards, vertically on the stationary tripod. Although pans and tilts are very commonly used in films, its unnecessary usage may cause problems as it does not duplicate the movement of the human eye. Very small tilts and pans are used to keep a subject in the desired part of the frame when a character or characters are moving within a frame. This is known as reframing. As this camera movement is in sync with the movement of the character, it is almost unnoticeable. Zoom. During the zoom movement, the camera does not move at all. Zoom is the movement of the camera lens. In this movement, the camera lens simply enlarges or reduces the proportion of the frame that is being shot. Zoom is a very useful device of the camera language. When effectively used, it enhances the effectivity of the scene. A good zoom focuses the audience's attention to a specific detail in a shot, or to show emotions in a character's face or eyes. Camera movements with camera setup moving. Apart from these camera movements, there are certain specialized devices which are used to assist and enhance these camera movements. These devices move and thus the camera moves with them, since the camera is mounted on these devices. Dolly. A dolly is a wheeled vehicle with a camera mounting device on it. Apart from camera mounting device, well-designed dollies have seats for the camera operator and an assistant. Typically, dolly movement is a movement in which the wheel device with the camera mounted on it moves towards or away from the object. It is one of the most dynamic camera movements that dramatically alters the space between the audience and the subject. The camera moving in is called a push-in and is commonly used to attract attention to a specific detail in the scene or amplify the character's emotion. Its opposite movement is called push-out, in which the camera is moved out. Push-out gives the audiences a feel of wider and bigger space. Dollies move on specially designed tracks to eliminate the camera shake of uneven surfaces. Its track can either be circular or straight. Tracking. In a tracking shot, the wheeled device moves along with, in front of, or behind a moving subject in the scene. In this movement, the character's position within the frame remains roughly the same. What changes is the background. Several good examples of this movement can be seen in Buster Keaton's The General. Crane. Camera cranes have a single movable arm fixed on a moving vehicle. The camera is mounted on this movable arm. The crane can accomplish almost the same things as the dolly, except that while the dolly can move only horizontally, the crane can move both horizontally and vertically. Crane shots are frequently used to give a wide and clear perspective of the location and creates a dynamic movement. There are many examples of crane shots, but a good example would be Hitchcock's Notorious. The scene starts with a wide shot of a party in a grand hall below the balcony. The camera is placed in the balcony. Suddenly, the camera cranes down to an extreme close-up of Ingrid Bergman's hand holding a key. The technical mastery with which this shot has been executed is breathtaking, as the position of the key has to be coordinated to be just in the right place in the final composition. Handheld camera. In the handheld shot, the camera is carried by the operator, often creating an uneven movement while filming. Simply, the shot lacks the smoothness. Handheld cameras give the viewers a sense of being a participant in the action, and the audience feels completely a part of the situation. This also lends a sense of urgency or chaos to the action. Although this kind of camera is very commonly used in documentaries and experimental films, the handheld camera has become common in feature films since the 1960s. A common visual metaphor, that is shaking or a trembling effect in horror films, is often created by the handheld cameras. Steadicam. The Steadicam eliminates the shakiness of the handheld camera while preserving its freedom of movement. One of the first users of the Steadicam was in John Schlesinger's Marathon Man. In a scene, Dustin Hoffman is chased on foot throughout New York's Central Park. He runs up and down the stairs, and the camera follows him everywhere he goes. This gives the audience a feeling that they are involved in the situation and thus lends a feeling of authenticity to the entire sequence. Cinematography has infinite possibilities. It can stimulate fear. It can stimulate joy. It can make you laugh. It can make you cry. It is a universe in itself. The audience sees the story through the camera. Although camera angles may sound like a very simple idea, but the effects are dramatic. A director can achieve wonders with his camera